Welcome to Champions Battlefield. I'm your host, Trevor Carroll. With us is my broadcast partner, Jamak Elshani. In studio today with us is current pro welterweight champion, Dave Showtime Perron. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Thank you for having me.
Dave, do you consider yourself now, after what you've accomplished, one of the best fighters in Canada that hasn't reached that UFC Bellator level yet?
Sure. I wouldn't say no to that. I mean, obviously, to get in there, you gotta, believe in yourself and believe in your abilities. And I do believe I can beat anybody at like 170, 185. I definitely think I'm one of the best for sure. I wouldn't say no.
Your record of 10-7 is pretty deceiving. Like, the stuff that's happened in your career, opponent changes and whatnot. You know the story behind that. If you have young and up and coming fighters looking at that, would you give them advice to do things a little bit differently?
Well, yeah, of course, looking back, I mean, obviously experience comes into play. I kind of just always just jumped into the deep end kind of things. That's kind of how I learned. I had one amateur fight and I went pro like
Mm.
a month later. Like that's like 4 months of training twice a week. So I mean, it worked out pretty good because I know my first four pro fights turned out pretty good, and then took a huge jump fighting a guy with 25 fights. Looking back, obviously, maybe be a little bit more strategic, but I
Mm.
mean, I just kind of learn on the go, and that was my journey. But
Yeah.
obviously, looking back, for younger guys, I mean, take the time. There's no rush. It's always good to have more amateur fights. People kind of know that.
Yeah.
I just was I just late to the game. I joined at 29, so I was like, let's just go for it. So that's kind of why that
Yeah.
happened for me.
You're one of a handful of guys, maybe a little bit more, that always goes for the toughest fights.
Hmm.
Never says no, takes the toughest fights. But then on the flip side, we always see these fighters coming up that are trying to pad their records, picking and choosing. What are your thoughts on that? How do you feel? Is that the right, what do you think is the right thing to do for the sport?
I don't think so. For me, that's not my style. I've been offered. I think my last fight they offered me two guys. I picked the guy with the toughest fight. You were talking about that earlier fight, my fifth fight. I had one guy. I was supposed to fight James. He got injured. They offered me Buckland. I was like, yeah, sounds good. And then they changed it to Caleb. He's been looking for a fight for I don't know, like 8 to 10 months. I don't know. And I was like, sure, sure, sure. I just said yes, yes, yes. That's my style. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's me. Looking back, like might not be the best thing. If I would have like been a bit careful, I could have had a better record.
yeah.
But people that pad their record, at the end of the day, that's not my style. So I don't really care because like whatever it looks, you can have a 10-2 record and it looks great on paper. But I mean, what's the point? Like you're gonna pad your record, and then most people who know MMA, know martial arts, kind of look at that kind of stuff. But if you pad a record, you got an 8-0 and you fought like nobody's, you make it to the big show, it's only gonna
What are you
expose.
going to
You're
accomplish,
just gonna
right?
expose yourself and kind of get exposed and lose. What you want to lose on the biggest show, like you want to
Mm.
use those fights to test yourself, develop yourself, and then once you're at that level, you want to do good. If you're that good, then it's all good. But if you shouldn't be there, then it's why make yourself look bad on the biggest stage? It just doesn't make sense
It
to
doesn't
me.
make sense, yeah.
But some people are just like that's their obsession. It's like I gotta make it to the UFC. For me, after losing to James, I went on a losing streak. I'm like that ship sailed. I'm like I'm old. I was this close to retiring. I'm like I just want to put on. I could have fought elsewhere. I'm like I'm gonna stick around here, battlefield locally in front of my friends. If I have a couple, I might as well fight in front of my friends
Yeah.
and then put on good fights. That's why the pressure was off. I was just having fun. And then the last 6 months, it just kind of had momentum and everything kind of came together, and it just was kind of like pretty, everything worked out pretty good in the last six
Yeah,
months.
like you mentioned, that a lot of fighters they have that pinnacle goal of reaching the UFC, reaching the Bellator. If that's not the goal for you, and if you do choose to continue fighting, why would you do it? What's the purpose?
Well, goals change, right?
Right.
Obviously, at some point, that was probably my goal. Be like, oh, that'd be pretty cool. Get the call, tried out for the show, went to
Hmm.
Vegas. I mean, yeah, that'd be cool. But now, I mean, for me, as a goal, like, I just wanted to pretty much apply what I've learned. Like I consider myself like a martial artist,
Yeah.
and I'm a big Bruce Lee fan, and he always
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
willing is not enough. We must apply."
Hmm.
So it's like I've spent eight plus years learning all this stuff. I just want to be able to showcase that, and like that's why I get in there. It's like for me, it's the most focused I've ever been, and it's the realest emotions. I remember after Buckwest like put it on me really good. I remember I was at the bar, and then I think it was Chris Franco. He's like, you showed a lot of heart in there, man. I'm like, and he was being super nice, and I was like, thank you. And I was like, that's a nice thing to say. I get it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was one of my shittiest performances, and in my head, I was like, and even some of my friends were like, man, like, oh man, like, oh, you toughed it out, like, that was really inspiring and all this stuff. I'm like, that's great, but I'm not in it to like show that I have heart. That's not why I do it. I'm in there to show that I have good martial arts skill.
Right.
So for me, as although it was a compliment, I was like, man, I'm like, I can do better. So I mean, there's kind of two sides to every kind of tale, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Speaking about, and you just mentioned being a martial artist, it's not all technique, it's not all your body and abilities, it's your mind. A lot of it is your mind, right?
100%.
I want to talk about this last fight that you had, right?
Yep.
I was sitting cage side watching, just like the judges that were sitting there on their scorecard. You were probably down going into the fourth round,
Probably, yeah.
right?
Probably, most definitely.
What the hell was going through your mind going into that last round?
The same thing that was going through my mind in the first round. I'm like, knock him out or sub him out. Nothing changed.
Right.
I have like amazing corner, amazing guys around me. And then basically the plan was, we know he's a very good wrestler. We know he has amazing takedowns. We know he's probably going to take me down. We had the interview here like a week before, and I said, I feel like his strengths play into my strengths.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really good wrestler, but I'm good off my back. I'm good at jiu-jitsu. I'm very comfortable there. So it's like, and I know he's really good at jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a different skill set. He's better wrestling than me. Like, I know that. Our jiu-jitsu kind of evens itself out, and then I felt like I have more power. So that's kind of like all the elements that were happening. I didn't feel he had the power to finish me, either stand up or ground and pound. Jiu-jitsu, the only way I could see a finish was either if it was a decision or a submission. So that's what I was worried about. And being on my back, I was trying to submit him the whole time. And at first, I felt as the fight went on, I was hoping. I've been tired before. I was conserving my energy, and I was like, I hope he gets tired, because I know how tiring takedowns are. So my main goal, I've been tired like after fighting Chris. I was trying to get the takedowns because I got frustrated, and I was like, I got to take this guy down, because I knew I had the edge there, and I couldn't, and I got really, really tired. The scariest thing I've ever experienced in fighting is just being exhausted.
Just running out of gas.
Well, you see stuff happening, but you can't react in time. Like, that's the scariest feeling. Getting in there is not scary. People think, oh, it's crazy, but when you fight, that's the scariest feeling, is not be able to react in time. Is like, you're slow, and of course you're going to expect being tired.
Right.
But going into that last round, I had my corner scream, oh, he's getting tired. And it was my best weight cut. I was smaller. I cut like 4 pounds, and I knew he was bigger. He probably had a hard cut, and he's going for those takedowns. That's a lot of energy. I was off the cage. I was chilling on the back, like, I was trying to conserve my energy, and then I was just waiting for my opportunity.
Right.
I finished 8 of my fights in like the first round. All I need is like 30 to 2 minutes. I think six of my wins are all in the first 2 minutes. So I mean, I know I can finish fights in 2 minutes. That's all I need. But I mean, this fight was very, very mental. I felt I had all the elements. I was the most prepared I've ever been, the most calm, and I was just waiting for it. And then the fourth, when I threw on that triangle, like, I was like, oh, I'm like, he's slipping. I think he's fading a little bit. And then I think that's when the tide turned, because everyone's like, oh, he dominated. Darcy's like, you did 50 minutes, you beat him. And I'm like, the closest that fight was ever to being done is literally that first minute of the first round, and that's me throwing on that triangle. So it depends how you look at it, but he had his strategy, I had mine.
Yours, right?
2 rounds is a lot of time for me. Like, I just need 2 minutes, like, to me finish the fight. So I mean, obviously I know he had a great performance, and that's great, and I'm happy that I beat him, a young stud in his prime. Like, that's just a feather in my cap. Really, that's how I look at it. And it made for a great fight. Everyone was saying it was like awesome fight, and it was pretty back and forth, up and down. Like, it was a jiu-jitsu battle. Like, he's very good at jiu-jitsu, and he's a great wrestler, and his control is just like very strong and annoying, and that's tiring for anybody. But I think his takedowns were wearing actually him out more than me, and that's what I think.
Yeah, you went for submissions, I think 4 times.
Probably
And
way
this
more than
was
that.
like well, it was like that. Those, and my question is, did you see something in his reaction, in the way he was defending those takedowns, that you kind of discovered and went into that last one and got him with it?
Well, he was very good at scrambling. Like, I felt like if I could get on top, I would be in a very good position. But he was very good. A couple times I almost had the leg, I almost had a trip, and he managed to flip it. So, I mean, he's also very athletic and good at scrambling. That's just a submission that I often go for. And I was saying, I want to knock him out, but I have a feeling if I'm probably going to submit him either by triangle or heel hook. That's just what my feeling. The one time we had sparred together, we did like wall wrestling for like 5-minute round, and then I was pretty tired, like, but nevertheless, like he had that good pressure, and I'm like, oh, he's stronger than he looks. His pressure is like a good wrestler, like that shit's annoying. And I've been there before. I mean, I get through the grind all the time with bigger and stronger dudes, and I'm more defensive. I'm not that good at wrestling, but I make up for it my aggressive style of jiu-jitsu. And then what happened there is just basically he was on me for 4 minutes, and the last 30 seconds I threw up that exact one, and I was like, oh, that was kind of easy. Obviously he knows that was like before his title fight or whatever, so he's been working on that, and his defense was pretty good. He did get out of it. But I mean, for me, it's just I'm always trying stuff. And then after the triangle, I tried it, and it got a little bit deeper, and then as soon as he left that arm there behind, and then I snatched it. I do that one all the time, and it was left. Like, he got lazy, and he kind of moved to this side. So this arm, before I would try it, but he would just slam me because he was strong. He would just pick me up and slam me. But he was going to this side, getting comfortable, and wanted to fight, and he left that alone. I just snatched it, and I was going to Kimura sweep him, but he overreacted, which gave me the leg. Once I locked up over the knee, like I do that all the time. I was thinking 3 different submissions right there. I was like, the same toe hold I got Ash. Ever since that fight, I've hit it like 10 times. And then there's a knee bar and a calf slicer I've been working on. So I'm thinking all this, and then he bumped and moved, and it fell into the 411 into that heel hook, which is a go-to. So it felt like training to be at that point. As like it just kind of, that's just reactionary. Like, I train a lot of jiu-jitsu.
Do you think the sort of 10th planet leg lock system gave you an advantage in terms of jiu-jitsu over? Obviously he trains jiu-jitsu. I think he's a brown belt, right? Yeah,
he's a brown belt too. He actually had a tournament, I think, in December. He won gold in a couple divisions. Like, he's really good. Hit a bunch of Peruvians. That's one of my moves. I was like, oh, and he tried it on me. I'm like, oh, I can't get caught. I hate getting caught by moves that I like, right? But 100%. I think it was maybe 2-3 years ago. I never did no gi. I did gi for 5 years, and I was like, one of my secret weapons, his name is JT. He was like, oh, the best no gi guy I know, his name's Nabil. Go check him out. Went there. He was like, oh, hey, what's up, man? Like, super cool. And I'm like, okay, awesome. I went for the no gi, fell in love with him and Ken, and I just would go for both, the jiu-jitsu and that. But no gi, my gi style is no gi. I always do the same stuff. That's why my buddy's a gi guy. He's like, oh, you got the same style, because I don't care about the gi. I care about submitting people in MMA. So when I roll with these guys, I'm like, white belt, blue belt. They're trying to
go for it.
They're trying to. I don't even know what color belt they are, but they're trying to rip your stuff off. So you have to be aware, especially lower belts. It's more dangerous, right? Like, you don't know, but they're going for it. They're like, oh, like, so it's like, it keeps you on your toes. I've got bad knees. I've had knee operations, so I developed good sensitivity. But I mean, like, that's on the regular. Like, most schools, it's not like that at all. The last year at my home gym, Creative Fighters Guild, it's the last couple of years, like, leg locks have been hot, like with the desk. It's been picking up. But for them, the 10th planet, that's been ongoing for a while, and just adding that to what I already knew. It opened up like a whole different realm, and I get it all the time. Like, it's just part of my game now. I just like submission.
Right.
I go to my other gym. One time I throw in a slicer, and he's like, hey,
what are you doing?
I'm like, you can't do that. I'm like, yeah, I can. I'm like, that's not legal. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, you tapped, didn't you? I'm like, I just care about the tap, and everyone knows that. And I train MMA to submit. That's all I like. I like submissions, and then the more weapons you have, and the 10th planet like opened up like kind of like a. It was just fantastic. That's the mentality. Finish. And like I told, it felt like training. I was like, oh, get the heel. And I was like at 10%. I wasn't even started cranking. Like, literally, I had like 70%. Like, he knows his.
He tapped. He knew
what's he knew his whole knee was about to just tear apart. I was just like, it felt like training, because you got to be really careful, because you don't want to hurt people. And I never do, because that's a dangerous move. So I have it, and it's like, you're locked up above the knee. All the pressure's on your knee, and all you got to do is tap. So I always check it and then check the guy. Some people don't know the danger. But in a fight, I mean, you should crank, but I didn't even have time, because he felt it right away.
He knew what was coming as well.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, he's a smart kid, and, like, you don't want to be out for 6 to 12 months. Like, the knee injuries, that's why a lot of people don't train that, because it's like, oh, it's dangerous. I'm like, well, so is fighting.
Yeah, exactly. Right,
you might want to train that, yeah.
If you do walk away from MMA, what will you miss the most?
Oh, man. I guess missing the most would have to be the training, man. The training, like, all the amazing partners, like teammates and partners and all that stuff. Like, it's kind of undescribable unless you kind of train. Like, when you're going in there and you're sparring like 3 5-minute rounds, and you're beating the crap out of each other, or you're rolling hard, like, that's some cool moments, man. It creates bonds, and it's just like, you can't describe. It's just cool, man. You just beat the crap out of each other, and you just shoot the shit, and you're having good times. Like, that's something that will be dearly missed, because when you're training with pros and everyone's fighting, sometimes you're sharing camps, and like everyone's like getting in like beast mode. Like, you're sparring, man. Like, it's some real fighting. that would probably be an obvious one because it's hard to. I wouldn't train as hard if you're not like the motivation.
yeah.
When you have a fight, you have the motivation. Like it just pushes you to be in the best shape and you're training for real. That in terms of training, and I guess the other side would be like the moments within the moments. Like when I look at the fight and it just happens and it feels like a dream. When things go well. And then when you look back and you see the videos and people are like, this happened, and you see these funny little things, people tell you stories. I'm like, oh, I went crazy, oh, I fell in this, and it's like all that stuff. It's just people are so, it's just cool to hear and everybody to be happy, and it's just those moments when the moments are what really like excites me.
That's what feeds you, right?
It's amazing. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
You can't describe. You guys were there. You saw. It was like the loudest, craziest. I'm like every one of those people are like my friends. Like they're not strangers. And they all have their own different version, and I'm getting videos.
You're getting all of them, right?
I get different videos, different angles, different stories. Like, man, it's funny stuff, man. And it's been a wild ride. Like that stuff, like that. Like you can't duplicate it other than you go to fight your friends. You don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it was their first fight. A lot throughout the years, a lot of people had never been to fights. First fight, it's like you're surprised, like the emotions you feel. You know me, you're gonna get nervous, right? So, some families, some people that come and they're like, "Oh my God, like it's intense." Like, it's kind of cool to share that with a lot of people, and I guess that's something
what you would miss.
Oh, of course, yeah.
On the flip side, if you do continue, if you decide, no, I want to continue, I want to defend my belt, would the defense, at least the first defense, would it be like a revenge fight against like a Dan Kajik, or would it be against like a bigger name like a Phil Baroni or Joe Riggs? How do you see that unfolding?
Well, for me, it would have to be a big fight that would get me excited, get my juices flowing, get me out of bed. I don't need any. I don't have a need for any revenge fights. That doesn't excite me at all. That first fight, that was a close split decision, and it was very, very frustrating. He's probably got one of the most frustrating, annoying styles I've ever dealt with. We've trained together, I spar with him. I hate sparring him or fighting. It's not fun. I like guys that come and bring it and they want to finish.
Yeah.
That's what I want. A big name, the guy that's coming forward, like that would be the kind of fight that would get me excited, right?
Is there a name that comes to your mind?
Not really. I mean, I was hoping that it would have been against Chris before. I was like any fight. But I mean, obviously he's at 85, and that's not relevant. But I was the only one that was getting my juices flowing because that's the fight I wanted the most. I was trying to get that, and that everything changed. And then basically they offered me Curtis after his second fight or something. He's like, "Oh, Curtis," I'm like, "No, I want a guy with 10 fights, and I want a guy with experience." I'm always getting offered the same 5 guys. I fought them all. Same 5 guys. You know how it is. I'm like, okay, get me out of towner. I'm like, he's got 2 fights. I want a guy with 10 fights, a winning record. Never really happened. I said no. He fought Dan like a week later. They announced it, and then I guess Curtis went on to win the belt, and he had his thing, right? So that was his time, and I knew it was inevitable. I knew it happened at some point. And that was our time, and it was cool because he was at his best, and it was a hell of a fight. And then now I've fought all the guys. I've had the hardest route of them all. I'm like, I had to fight one. I fought Ash. I was supposed to get my title shot. I didn't. I fought again, and then I fought him. Curtis got an immediate rematch, and he got this fight after a loss. That's a pretty sweet deal. I never got that. Dan fought Chris after a loss. Like that's unheard of. These guys are getting like, I don't know, man. I'm like, I had to work hard for everything I've had, so I got no handouts for anybody.
What does life look like outside of the cage for Showtime?
For me, man, I'm a busy guy, man. I work 9 to 5. I work full time. I teach a couple days a week, and then I train pretty much every day of the week. That keeps me pretty busy. Looking back now, like I actually worked like 5 minutes from here, but before I worked in Richmond, I could train at lunch. I would do like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. I used to look back and be like, holy crap, I used to train like up to 14 times a week, 10 to 14 times a week. I'm like, I don't even know. Working full time, like for most people that's hard to understand. For people that do MMA, like that's understandable.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't work full time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I'm like, holy crap, I don't know how, but I mean, I've done it for a really long time, and I really put in the work. Like on the day after Christmas, I was like doing sprints in the snow, in the snow. I didn't eat any good food. You know, I sacrificed my Christmas for this. I wanted to fight in March, before my last fight. It was I fought. That's 2 fights in 2 months. November 18th, January 13th.
That's right.
They were like, you want to fight in January? I'm like, no, I want to fight in March. Give me some time to enjoy the holidays and recuperate. And then before the fight, I said no. After the fight, I said no. And then Your brother's like, "Do you want to fight for the belt?" I'm like, I'm not gonna say
I'm
no.
not gonna say no to that. Yeah.
That's all I want. I said I'll fight at 170. I will fight at 85. I just want a title shot.
Whatever. Just give me a title shot.
That's it. And I feel like I earned it. And then that was my shot. And then I just put everything in, put a lot of work, and I trained my ass off. And I feel like ever since the last 3 fights, I had no pressure because I was like, I don't care. I'm ready to walk away.
I don't give a shit.
It's just fun.
I'll
For
just
me,
have fun,
once
yeah.
I fought Ash, I was like, this is just fun.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is it. I'm okay. Whatever. I think that would have been 8-8. I'm like, I'm okay walking away like 8-8 record. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then I won, and it was pretty sweet. And that one felt really, really good. And then I'm just like, now it's just fun. So I took all the pressure off. There's pressure, a lot of stuff, a lot of the mental stuff. And I'm like, I'm on a losing streak. I've never lost more than once, twice. I'm like, holy crap, that sucks. 3 times, like, holy shit, that's horrible. But it's like you look at who it is and like a couple split decisions and like get out of fights with no damage. Like some guys just want to win. They don't care. Like I've had like no damage. Like 2 fights, like nothing. Like guys on top, like no damage. I'm like, if I get on top of you, I'm finishing you. Like for me, it pisses me off. But I get it. Like you said, some guys they think they can just like. I think maybe they thought you could like that was the recipe to beat me is to grind out a decision. But I mean like that's not the case.
It's not gonna work.
It's not the case anymore because right now I'm just having fun and now I got like I had 5 rounds to pull it off. And I mean, I just like my mentality changed. No pressure, just fun. When I'm relaxed and there's no pressure.
In the moment, you're just.
That's what happened the last couple fights. Last one was really long, but the first 2, I felt really good, light on my feet, moving around, and then whatever happened kind of happened. And I was like, I have no pressure. For me, I'm having fun, and that's when I'm at my best. And it worked out pretty sweet.
Awesome. Speaking of life outside the cage, you just got married recently. Beautiful woman.
Yeah.
I watched your videos and
Awesome.
just a fun wedding. It was great.
Crazy, yeah.
Are you planning on having kids?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, my wife. This one's for my wife. Love you, Rita.
Awesome.
This one's for you. I owed her. I was too crazy after the fight. This one was for her. She goes through a lot. Anybody who has a significant other who trains understands. Like,
crazy life.
It's busy, man. You're training. Like on a Tuesday, I'll go to work. I'll go to Coquitlam. I get home at like 10:30, 11. Like that's a pretty long day. So. Absolutely, that's the next chapter of life, and we're definitely planning out. Lucky for me, I got a beautiful younger hot wife, so I mean that's pretty good. So that's kind of the plan. So I mean that's gonna happen, and it's in the work.
Are you gonna get your kids into MMA, jiu-jitsu? What's the plan?
Oh, for sure. I mean, maybe my mom's pretty funny. She's always like, I don't like the punching, but the jiu-jitsu is okay. Good. So she's always like, jiu-jitsu is good. She's like, that's good, David. Like she really likes the submissions. She doesn't like the punches. Like a lot of parents, like it's not easy, right?
Yeah.
My mom can't watch, but yeah, 100%. 2009, I used to party and do all the, and like I quit smoking. That was my New Year's resolution was to start fighting. That was in 2009. So my life's completely changed because of martial arts. 100%. Now I teach and. It's funny because now, like, you guys, I'm experienced and I'm kind of a vet. I'm like, it's kind of crazy to me because I was just a guy watching the UFC and I'm like, oh, I got to try that. And some guy at the bar is going, no, you can't do it. You're too old. I'm like, screw you. And then that guy came to he's a friend of mine. I'm like, dude, do you remember? He's like, I do. And he's like, yeah. It's just so funny, right? Like drunk talk. And then like, I pulled it off, but I would highly recommend like martial arts, especially as kids, jiu-jitsu, martial arts. You learn self-defense, confidence. I mean, I was teaching kids today. Like it's just. There's no downside. I mean, of course, 100%. Like,
do you think that you'll stay connected to the sport long term and coach younger kids, younger fighters coming up?
Oh, I don't see how I couldn't. Yeah, I love it. Like I said, I teach already. I taught this morning.
Yeah.
And then like I teach twice a week, and then like I enjoy it. And yeah, I feel like I've been blessed with so many amazing coaches and friends teaching me. And now it's like sometimes, oh, can you teach? I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, I guess I do know. I kind of know a lot of stuff. I guess I learned throughout the years, and giving back. It's just people are good to you, and I've always been a big believer in treating people with respect, and I've been blessed, and it just feels natural to just give it back. And it's like, yeah, I'm happy to help. So absolutely, yeah, whatever I can do to help, like the next guy. I mean, it's my pleasure.
Sweet. I'm gonna end it on a little bit of a different note here.
Okay.
I'm gonna rattle off some names here.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me the first word that comes to your mind when I say the name. And
only one, or can I have two?
Okay, two.
Okay.
One or two.
All right.
Nabil,
my coach.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing person, coach, jiu-jitsu practitioner, badass.
Chris Anderson,
Warrior.
Dayan Kajic,
Disingenuous.
okay. Ryan James,
Terminator, Iron Will.
Curtis Harriott,
Future champ, class act.
Battlefield Fight League,
Great opportunity, great league, tough boss.
All right, last one here. Dave Perron.
Showtime, baby. Champion, you know the answer to that one.
All right, Showtime. It's awesome having you. I love watching you fight. It's good to have you.
Really
I
appreciate it.
do hope you continue to fight and we see you fight again in the cage.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, man. So do I.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.